Okay, let's continue with part 2. First, we're going to complete the IRS SS4 form as follows, and we're going to take a look at the example of how to do that. When we're ready, we're going to call the EIN International at 267-941-1099. Yes, they use the last 4 digits as 1099. And how we fill out this form is all going to be according to the IRS rules in their manual. So let's take a look at the screenshot here. Of course, you can click the link right here. It'll take you to their manual. But the section we want to focus on is 21.7.13.3.2.7.1. Foreign entities, persons not required to file a U.S. tax return. For corporations and individuals not engaged in a trade or business in the United States, and foreign partnerships, foreign trust, and foreign estates that do not have gross income that is or is treated as effectively connected with the conduct of a trade or business are not required to obtain an EIN unless they otherwise have United States source income on which the tax liability was not fully satisfied by the withholding of tax at the source. However, a foreign entity may need an EIN to comply with IRS withholding regulations or to claim tax treaty benefits. In this case, the taxpayer should complete Form SS4 as shown below. Now let's look at line A, or section A of line 7B on the form. Provide an ITIN or social security number if appropriate. Otherwise, write non-applicable. Line 10, check the compliance with IRS withholding regulations box, or in the case of claiming treaty benefits, check the other box and specify on the line for tax treaty purposes only. In lines 11 through 17, you're going to enter not applicable. If these 3 sections, if we follow the rules of this section on the SS4, what the IRS agent is prompted to do is establish these entities on the 0 file. Okay, let's go down. Next screenshot. They are going to assign you a prefix 98 number based on the information that you are giving them from your form. So they're going to assign a prefix 98 number if a corporation or LLC indicates on line 9B that it was incorporated in a foreign country. We will indeed use a foreign country. They're also going to assign a prefix 98 number if there's any language anywhere on the form suggesting a foreign status, such as tax treaty status, or what we like to use, the W-8 bin. Okay. Also, line 10, they're going to assign a 98 number if line 10 has, for any reason, compliance with IRS withholding regulations. So, these are the rules to fill out each box on the form SS4. So let's take a look at the form. And we have line 1. I'll blow this up. Line 1, what is the legal name of entity? The legal name is going to be your Express Trust. So for this example, it's Schwab Wolfgang Express Trust. You must have the suffix of Express Trust at the end. Think of whatever name you want. It cannot be your first and last name. It cannot be anything associated with your social. Think of a name with high presence or power, such as, we've all heard of the Rothschilds, or Trump, Ford, Vanderbilt. All of those are powerful names. So think of something. You may want to look up within the law dictionary and search for words that have anything to do with money, wealth, levy, taxes, freedom, things of that nature, gold, commodities. Have something of value, of wealth, something that's memorable. Line 2, before in the past, we would use to connect our LLC in line 2 or our other corporation or other business name, because this would be the trade name or a DBA in association with the Express Trust. Today, we're finding out when we call the IRS, they do not want any information in line 2. So leave that blank or just keep it the same name as in line 1 without the words Express Trust. Line 3, where it asks for executor, administrator, or trustee, you're going to put your first name, last name with the abbreviations TTEE, which means you are the trustee. Now, of course, you will get a non-resident alien as your sole trustee. But remember, they are hiring you to do work on their behalf. So it is okay for you to put your name down in box 3 as the trustee for now. For A, you're going to use a United States address where they can send you any correspondences within the United States. So please put care of and then your address. It can be your home address, it could be a private box, it could be someone else's address, but as long as you're able to get it. Care of, and then the name of the address. For B is the city and state for that care of address. For A, you're going to use a foreign address. It could be any building, any place within another country. I suggest an extended stay hotel. Why? Because that could be the place where you're here in the United States and your sole trustee is somewhere in another country where the two of you got on the phone, whether video chat, Skype, or on the phone, and you decided that we're going to establish a trust. At that point in time, you have to determine, okay, where is the location that we're going to select as the origin of establishing this trust. Use the foreign address, since the sole trustee is considered the legal owner of the property anyway. Okay? 5B, use the foreign city and province and zip. Number 6 is the county and state that's associated with the principal business. So you're going to use the county and state for the care of address for the mailing address. Okay? 7A is the same as box 3. First name and last name. Go ahead and put the words trustee at the end of your name. Now here we go. 7B, just as the instructions instructed us to do, you're not going to give an SSN or I-10 number, and you're not going to say that this trust already has an existing LLC, because that's not true. We're calling for the first time to get an EIN number for this trust. When the IRS agent asks you, what is your social security number? You say, I do not have one. I was never given one. Let's go down to the rules. Back to the guide for box 7B. When speaking with the IRS agent, you simply state, I do not have a social security number, and you were never given one. You were never given an I-10. An I-10 is for someone that is from another country, and they come here and they receive an I-10 from the Social Security Administration. None of these apply to you. Now, check this note. You are from another country outside the United States. If you were not born in the District of Columbia, see the location of the United States via UCC 9-307. Let's click that. The location of a debtor. Let's go down to section H. Let me remove these advertisements. Section H. The location of the United States is located in the District of Columbia. That's it. The state of New Mexico is not the United States. The state of Georgia is not the United States. The state of California is not the United States. They are their own countries. All states are countries in their own respectable manner, which came together militarily to form a more perfect union, known as the United States of America. There's a difference between United States of America and the United States. Each of the 50 countries were styled as the Territory of New Hampshire or the Territory of Oregon. However, through an act of cession, the countries ceded their power and jurisdiction to Washington, D.C., and became subject to their federal corporation. Now I click that link there where it says federal corporation. It takes us to Title 28, U.S. Code 3002. We'll go down to Section 15A. It says United States means a federal corporation. Okay. Therefore, each country later became recognized as the state of New Hampshire or the state of Oregon. After the act of cession, they went from the territory of to the state of. The state of is referring to the subject to. Okay? Take a look at the Tennessee Constitution for further clarification on the act of cession. I'm going to click this. This is Tennessee's 1834 Constitution. I'm going to read the very first paragraph, not too much. It says, the Constitution of the State of Tennessee, whereas the people of the territory of the United States, south of the River Ohio, having the right of admission into the general government as a member state thereof, consistent with the Constitution of the United States, and the act of cession of the state of North Carolina, recognizing the ordinance for the government of the territory of the United States northwest of the River Ohio, by their delegates and representatives in convention assembled did on the 6th day of February in the year of our Lord 1796 ordain and establish a constitution or form of government, and mutually agreed with each other to form themselves into a free and independent state by the name of the State of Tennessee. Okay, do you see that? Every state has done the act of cession and ceded over its power and jurisdiction to the District of Columbia. So now, let's go back to the form here. Remember, you do not have a social. You were not born in the United States. Now, it's not wise to have this conversation with the IRS agent. They're not trained on this information. They're just trained to get on the phone and give you a number and get off. So, just tell them exactly what they want to hear. Give them the foreign address. You don't have a social. If they ask you, well, how are you inside of the United States if you don't have a social? See, that's a trick question. How many people from other countries come here that don't have a social? They can come here to visit. I couldn't believe when an IRS agent asked me that question. But trust me, they will try to trip you up because so many people are getting their 9/8 numbers and they're having their taxes wiped out simply by being in the trust. And just because there's so many of us doing it doesn't mean that you can't either. So box 9A, what type of entity is this? You're gonna put a check box right here where it says trust, you're going to type grantor trust. That's what you tell the agent. This is a grantor trust. Okay? You are the settlor, also known as grantor. You created the trust and you named it Schwab Wolfgang Express Trust. The type is a grantor trust. Number 10, what is the reason for applying? Remember, it said if it says anything that has to do with IRS withholding compliance for tax treaty purposes or the words W-8 bin purposes, they're automatically going to issue you a 98 number. The tax treaty that we are referring to goes back to the Treaty of the Delawares of 1778, which spawned the Articles of Confederation in 1781. And we will read that shortly. Number 11, you're going to say today's date as the start of the business or the start of the trust. You can pick today's date or you can pick a date going back. Just don't go farther than 3 years. Okay? And number 12, the closing month of accounting year is always December of the current year that you are calling. And last, number 16, they rarely ask this question, but if they do, what is the principal activity of your business? Check other and tell them ministerial. All of your business activity, I don't care if you're a W-2 employee, if you are a 1099 individual contractor, or if you are an entrepreneur, all of your work comes from within you, comes from your mind and your heart and soul. God told you to do what you're doing. And so when you use God or the religious instructions and beliefs that are protected by the Constitution, no man can question that. And no man can tax which you have decided to give to God. All right? So that's how you fill out the SS4. I'll go back to our guide here. I'm going to give you a little bit more information on about that social and your nationality. Truthfully speaking, you are from the country of your birth, such as Montana, California, Virginia, evidenced by your birth certificate per the 2016 GPO Style Manual, page 95. Let's click that. Let's go down all the way to page 95. This should be included in your email if you want to follow along. Put some ways down. It's going to be very interesting. They tell you exactly the names of the natives that we are associated with, depending on the country we were born in. Here we go. Page 95. We're going to look at section 5.2 and 5.23 for nationalities. These are the nationalities that you belong to. It's just like South America, the South American continent. If you're born in the country of Colombia, you're Colombian. Venezuela, Venezuelan. The only difference between North America and South America is that the countries in South America did not come together militarily to form a more perfect union like North America did. So, I'm Californian. If you're from New York, you're a New Yorker. If you're from, what do they call New Hampshire? It's New Hampshireite. We have Nevadan, Hoosier for Indiana, Kansan, all of that. These are the other options that they don't give you. The only options they do give you, go to the next one, right here. Alaska Native, Black or African American, Pacific Islander, white. Hispanic, or Latino. Where is the land of black or African American? Where is the land of white or the nation of white? Where is it? There's no continent that's comprised of the nation of white or the nation of Puerto Rican. And Puerto Rico is under the Act of Cession, just like the United States Virgin Islands. So Puerto Rico and the United States Virgin Islands, including the Samoa Islands, are within the territory or possessions of the United States, which is the District of Columbia. So it's very clear when they give you these options as the only thing for you to select, they're putting you in the category of a U.S. citizen that can be taxed, that can be inside that court test or the control test. Okay? We are not U.S. citizens or United States nationals unless we state we are on public forms and applications. A U.S. citizen or U.S. national is one and the same. You can check it for yourself. Title 8. Right here. The term national of the United States means A, a citizen of the United States, or B, a person who, though not a citizen of the United States, owes permanent allegiance to the United States. U.S. nationals are those that we just spoke about, who are from Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, the Samoan Islands. They fall up under what's called Rule 144A. And there's no mistake as to why they call that Rule 144A, as in the 144,000 mentioned in the book of Revelations. Now, let's continue. So we are Missourian nationals or Minnesotan nationals or wherever you were born, but not a citizen of the United States. And if you want to correct the false assumption of being a U.S. citizen, you must follow the rules of Public Law 94-241. You go to Article 3, Sections 301 and 302. I'm not going to go over that right now, but that is a process that we would do towards the end. Now, upon reading the United States Secretary of State of the Department of State website, the Secretary of State is also going to provide a guide to effectively obtain your passport as a national but not a citizen of the United States. Okay, and that's going to be according to Section 341 of the Immigration and Nationality Act of Title 8. Okay, now when we tell the IRS agent we do not have a social security number, it really is a true statement. We never agreed to accept the SS5 contract with the Social Security Administration. Our parents entered into the contract for us, which goes against the Baby Act. Let's look at that. What is the Baby Act according to the Law Dictionary? It is a plea of infancy interposed for the purpose of defeating an action upon a contract made while the person was a minor. Is vulgarly called pleading the Baby Act. It also goes against legal disability. Legal disability means a person under a legal disability who is a minor or an incompetent or incapacitated person or an unborn individual or whose identity or location is unknown. We fit under the category of a minor when that SS5 contract was created. Okay, now those who currently are accepting SSI, disability, or Social Security insurance, they've either paid into it throughout their life and are truly owed those benefits, or they are unaware that their trust can obtain insurance policies to cover those expenses without utilizing federal insurance. Once you're made aware of it and what your trust can do, you won't need Social Security anymore. You can leave it alone. All right, so we completed box 8A, box 9A already. We discussed the W-8 bin and the tax treaties. Here we're going to talk about a little bit of those treaties that's associated with the United States. Now I'm going to open up the treaty with the Delawares of 1778. Now what's interesting is you'll find the first inaugural address by Abraham Lincoln, and he talks about the first documents that came together to form the United States of America Constitution. He first said in 1778 it was the Articles of Confederation. But when you click on the Articles of Confederation, it first starts as 1781. Why would he say 1778 if it says 1781? That's because it first began by the treaty with the Delawares. Go down to section 4. It says, section 5. Whereas the Confederation entered into by the Delaware Nation and the United States. At this time, the United States is just the 13 colonies, and they're showing you a contrast here. At this time, each nation was its own country. Georgia Nation, California Nation, Nevada Nation, New York Nation. Delaware was the first to enter into a treaty with the 13 colonies, called the Treaty with the Delawares of 1778, that further spawned into the Articles of Confederation in 1781. And the style of this confederacy shall be the United States of America. Most will say the United States began by the Declaration of Independence of 1776. That cannot be. It all started with the Articles of Association, 1774, the Treaty with the Delawares, 1778, Articles of Confederation, 1781, then the Declaration of Independence, whatever date that is after that, and then you follow into the 1787 United States Constitution. Now, in this document, it talks about you already having tax exemption before the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 and before the 14th Amendment ever came into place. Let's look at that. Section 4. You can read this, but it's going to talk about the free inhabitants of each state. That's what you are. You have free ingress and regress to and from any other state. That means you don't need a passport. You really don't. And you also have that no state or any other state can put upon you no impositions, duties, or restrictions. That means no taxes. But they're talking about this only pertains to the people. Now, who are the people? Just to be brief, the people, well, all constitutions refer to three types of people. There are three classes: the people, the subjects, and the citizens. You don't want to be a subject, and you don't want to be a citizen. You want to be the people. The people is not you and I in our individuality. The people are groups. The people are express trust. The family that lives next door to me is within an express trust. It's a family of four, and they are considered in law a natural person. That's one people. My home consists of 5 people, and we're all in one express trust. That is considered in law another natural person. So now we have 2 people in my neighborhood. The next house does the same thing. They're considered the 3rd person in this neighborhood. The people is comprised of many different express trusts. If you do not have that, then the whole number of people that they look upon when it comes to voting is diminished. And the only people that are able to vote are them, because congressmen and governors are in express trust. They will always hold the higher vote as long as we are trying to come in and vote in our individuality as an individual person. It will not work that way. The people must be a unit. Okay? Now, the only way to avoid the statutes and codes for taxes is by having a contract to which the federal government cannot interfere with. And this is talking about Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1 of the U.S. Constitution, where it says no bill of attainder or ex post facto law can retroactively impose a law on your trust, because your trust is a contract. You must understand that. If your express trust is governed by the previously mentioned laws, they must abide by your contract because they gave an oath to defend it. If they do not defend it, then your trust can sue the state and make them reveal more details of their trust, which they do not want to happen because it would reveal the additional trustee minutes that the judges and congressmen have agreed to execute. Under the administration of President Trump, his cabinet revealed the truth as to who has rights protected by the Constitution in House Joint Resolution 48 on February 22nd, 2019. Let's take a look. Let's go down. It says, proposing an amendment to the Constitution of the United States, providing that the rights extended by the Constitution are the rights of natural persons only. Article 1, Section 1. The rights protected by the Constitution of the United States are the rights of natural persons only. Artificial entities such as corporations, limited liability companies, or other entities, and I'm just going to say it, individuals, you and I in our individuality, established by the laws of any state, the United States or any foreign state, shall have no rights under this Constitution and are subject to regulation by who? The people, through federal, state, or local law. They're saying that you as the individual and your companies are regulated by the express trust, the natural persons, the people. And guess who those people are? Congressmen, senators, governors. They're in their rightful place, which is why we can't come after them in our individual right, but we can come after them as a unit, as an express trust, as a confederation of our own. Then they listen. If you want to shut down DMV, you come as the trust. If there's any programs that you don't agree with, you come as the trust to shut it down. That's how it works. The privileges of artificial entities shall be determined by the people through federal, state, or local law and shall not be construed to be inherent or inalienable. Okay. Now, to understand what is a natural person, again, we'll look at Paul v. Virginia, where it talked about Trustees of an express trust are protected under the Constitution as citizens throughout the continental United States. The trustees under a will or declaration of express trust are natural persons. Remember, and I mentioned to you before, if you did not catch this statement, that means your non-resident alien has free ingress and regress from their country to the United States just by being a trustee to your express trust that is registered in one of the counties. They have privileges and immunities just like you already have as an inhabitant, and they do not need green cards. All they would need is their foreign country's passport and the recorded trustee minutes stating they are contracted trustees coming to whatever state to manage the settler's property. That is the nature of their visit, and it is not subject to just 6-month visa. Why? Because they cannot interfere with private contracts such as the express trust. So, after you've gone through the entire filling out of the SS4 and you call the IRS agent, I guarantee you, congratulations, you have now obtained your foreign trust 98 number that is registered on the federal level on the 0 file. You may now begin preparation to place your name, your estate, your businesses, and all of your entrepreneurial efforts under the 9(8) for tax exemption. So now remember, the IRS instructed that we may receive a letter which is stated below. Right here it says number 3. If the foreign entities, individuals above, receive a letter from the IRS soliciting that the filing of a U.S. tax return, the foreign entity individual should respond to the letter immediately by stating that it has no requirement to file a U.S. tax return. Failure to respond to the IRS letter may result in a procedural assessment of tax by the IRS against the foreign entity. Please, you want to avoid that procedural assessment of tax. So please, even if you do not receive a letter in the mail, as soon as the agent gives you a 9(8) number, you need to put a letter in the mail the next day. The next day. Okay? And this is what it's going to say. This is the template. This is going to be included in the guide. So you want to copy this whole thing all the way to where it talks about the phone number. And you want to enter the information that applies to you. The name of your name, you're the trustee, the date, name of the trust, address. This is the address you mail it to, Cincinnati, Ohio. This is regarding your SS4 application. You're going to enter the full 9(8) number. Of course, remove this red lettering. It's going to say, I, first name, last name, an authorized person of the Schwab Wolfgang Express Trust on behalf of the trust beneficiaries wish to provide the Internal Revenue Service additional information in response to any CP 575 notices requiring the trust to file a 1041 for the current tax year. Take notice that the Schwab Wolfgang Express Trust is a foreign trust established in, and you're going to put the name of the country that you used, and was assigned EIN number for W-8 bin purposes. The foreign entity and its representatives have no requirement to file any U.S. tax return pursuant to Internal Revenue Manual 27. And the sole trustee is a non-resident alien having authority to make substantial decisions of the trust. The sole trustee does not meet the requirements of the court test nor the control test. The foreign trust and its representatives are not United States persons per 26 U.S.C. 7701, subsection 30, and is not a domestic trust under the supervision and jurisdiction of any court within the United States, per 26 U.S.C. 7701, subsection 31B. Please provide confirmation of the above statements in compliance with the law. Should you have any questions or concerns, you may write to our attention via the address above. Thank you for your prompt attention in this matter of equity. Provide your name. You can say that you are the settlor or authorized person, and give your trust office phone number. Make it a Google number. Convert your number to a Google number or use your business number. It could be 1-800, it doesn't matter. Sign it, send it off to Cincinnati, Ohio. All right, let's open for questions and answers.